Hi there and welcome to our virtual open day. I'll just tell you a bit about myself while we wait. I am the Faculty Admissions Officer for Mathematics in Cambridge. In the faculty, I'm also Director of Studies in my college and an affiliated lecturer. So I also teach the students in our department, both in small group teaching and in lectures. And as a Director of Studies, I actually do admissions for colleges. And anyway, in Cambridge, we do share between colleges. So I've interviewed not just for my college, but for lots of other colleges. Okay, so let's start again. This is what I was going to talk about. So our course, the feature of the course, and then the admissions process. And here you can finally see the pictures. So the top left is the entrance to our department, and on the top right, you can see the department from a desk, actually one of the stand desks in our library. Top and the bottom right, you can see actually the department at night. I chose the night picture because then you can have a glimpse inside. And you can see some of our entrance, some of the common rooms. And again, on the right, I've shown an area in our library. Our library is a wonderful environment. The students will tell you anyway, a wonderful environment for studying, is comfortable with different types of area for studying, for relaxing, even for having a break, doing maths, puzzles, actually picture puzzles. Okay, so this is inside the department, a quick tour. Top right is MR2, one of our big lecture rooms. Obviously that is not a cohort of first year students. First of all, because the first year students normally don't have lectures in the faculty. They have lecture in some central lectures in Cambridge, lecture rooms in Cambridge. They might come here for seminars, but often they have, our undergraduates have what we call supervisions, which is small group teaching. You can see an example there on the bottom left. That is one supervisor with two students, which is one of our normal supervisions, and they are carrying that out in the what we call central core, which is where we normally congregate and socialize, have lunches, and of course do lots of maths, like the girl at the top and all the other people at the back of her in our central core, busy working in maths, as they should, of course. Students, at least that one at the bottom left, seems to be happy with going to lectures. This actually picture there is one of the lectures in the central sites in Cambridge. Okay, yes, students don't just work hard at our maths and listening to lectures. There are all sorts of ways in which they do and should relax, both on our site, outside on our nice green areas. Like for that is probably, I think it's an end of year party of our one of our math societies. That was the Eminetha Society. Bottom under that inside is what we do every year. That is mainly with PhD students. All the undergraduate students would not fit there. We have a nice Christmas party, but all colleges have Christmas party for their undergraduates in college. Top right is some of our students enjoying something other than maths in our department. And of course, people have fun, our mathmers, whatever the weather in our department. So snowman building is a particularly favored activity. Okay, enough of that now. We're going to talk about the course. Now, the main distinguishing features of our course is that it covers the whole range of mathematics. You apply to do mathematics here, and you can choose anything. You will be given a foundation in all main subject areas in mathematics. And then you can choose to specialize further on. We'll see how. So it has an upside down pyramid structure. It means you start with a small number of courses that you have to take during the first year, and then your choice increases. So sort of upside down, like that, as you go through the years. So you'll have more courses to choose from in the second year and in the third. And if you stay on for the fourth year for the Maths, then the choice is more or less around 80 courses. And you choose only about 6 to 8 of them. So you can really specialize there. Another feature that is particular in Cambridge is that the examinations in the first 3 years, not in the fourth year, are non-modular. So each exam paper is not on a particular lecture course. Each exam paper has questions from a few different lecture courses. So each examination paper, you can choose what questions you can actually answer. What is a feature particular of Cambridge and Oxford is that the lectures are supplemented by supervisions. Now, supervisions are small group teaching. In some universities, they talk about small group teaching, and then the group is a group of 20. In Cambridge and in Oxford as well, mainly, the small group teaching during the first 3 years of your course is usually 2 students and 1 supervisor. Occasionally 1 student and 1 supervisor, or occasionally, very occasionally, 3 students, never more than that. And students are encouraged to make the most of the supervisions. And hopefully most of them do, and it's really helpful. Now, the structure of the courses. In the first year, you have 8 courses and you need to take them all. Why do we do that? We do that because maths as university is so different from what you think maths is when you study maths in school. In fact, what you think about pure maths, what you think is pure maths when you do maths in school is nothing like pure maths in university. That is what really we call applied maths. But you'll discover it, and then you'll be armed with the knowledge of what different subject areas are like at university, and you might discover a love of subjects that you never knew you might like stats, for example, which often is not that interesting in school, but can be wonderful and very different when you study at the universities. In the second year, you have 16 courses and also the opportunity to do a computational project, which is coursework. And you don't, of course, then you don't have to take all 16 courses. You choose then again around 8 courses from these 16. The computational project is not compulsory, but about 98% of our students do it, and with good reasons. It's a great opportunity to do something different and to learn how to model mathematically and to write code. In the third year, there are around 35 courses, and again, the opportunity to do a computational project. And as I mentioned before, in the fourth year, which is optional, not everybody chooses to continue to that, there are around 80 courses. Okay, now, what sort of courses will you encounter in the first year? Well, in the first term, you have courses like vectors and matrices, groups, numbers and sets, and differential equations. So a mix of pure courses and applied. And again, similarly, in the second term, you have 4 courses in the mix of pure and applied, or what we call applicable, like probability. Now, if you had you may not have had the opportunity to see pre-recorded lectures on our website, but we have pre-recorded lectures that you will be able to access on our newly released YouTube channels. There are 4 pre-recorded lectures by some of our lecturers in the department, and some of the concepts that they mentioned in their talks are also treated in some of these courses in the first year or in further years. Now, what does a typical week looks like for a first-year mathematicians? There are some surprises possibly for you here. The main surprise will be that we have lectures on Saturdays. But this is balanced off by the fact that you will never have lectures in the first year only. We are kind to first-year students. They start before 10 o'clock. So you can sleep in a little, even on Saturday when you have the other lectures. So you have lectures in the morning, 2 lectures every day. And in the afternoon, you usually have 2 supervisions per week. Now, these are not fixed, they're arranged in different ways by colleges, but you'll have supervisions for each of the courses you are taking. Okay. I failed to mention at the beginning, you may have lots of questions about what I mentioned in this talk. There will be an opportunity for questions and answers at the end of my talk. Hopefully I won't take too long. And we have, I think, four wonderful students from our department who are here to answer your questions, as well as myself, of course. Right. Now let's talk a little bit about practicalities of admissions. Of course, all applications are through UCAS, like for every other university. However, you should be aware that at Cambridge, the process starts earlier because we need to allow time to consider the applications before we interview candidates. So you should submit your application by the 15th of October. You may know all this already. And of course, in the usual ways, the UCAS application will have your own statement, the references and predicted grades, slightly different for candidates. Okay. And we also have a supplementary application questionnaire. So this is specifically for Cambridge, and it's a chance for you to write in there some additional information that you feel we should know, or that you feel is specific to Cambridge, and that you're not putting in your statement that is aimed perhaps at a wider range of universities that you are applying to. Interviews are always in December. At the beginning of December, interviews and admissions are actually done by the colleges. So you apply to a college. You don't have to specify a choice of college, because if you don't, then your application will be randomly allocated to a college that perhaps that year had fewer applications. Decisions are made in January. So you will receive a letter that tells you whether you receive an offer or not. Sometimes what happens during interviews is that a college finds that they have many more candidates to whom they would like to make an offer, but they haven't got enough places. So what we do, so that good candidates don't miss out, whatever college they apply to, we put these in what we call the pool. This is actually, in effect, a room where all the application forms of these candidates and their interview reports are collected for all colleges to have a look at, so that good candidates can be considered by other colleges who may have had fewer applications that year. And that way we even out the field. It doesn't matter what college you applied for. Your offer will be based on grades in your A levels or other qualifications you're taking, and of course also on step papers 2 and 3 normally. By August, we'll receive all your grades in these qualifications, and a college will decide whether to accept or don't accept people who may not have made their offer. Although many colleges, because we don't just consider grades in isolation, we consider the whole contextual information about a student. So their school, their personal circumstances, everything. Many colleges end up accepting students who didn't make their offer. About a third of the candidates that actually are accepted by Cambridge didn't make their step offer. But if they don't have enough room, or they decided that they had a very strong cohort that they can admit, and others that, well, they don't have room for, again, there is another chance of a pool, so that these candidates, these good candidates, are shared between colleges, and they still have another chance of getting accepted by Cambridge. Now, how do we decide? What are our aims when we look to make an offer or to admit people here? Well, obviously, we want to offer to students of the highest mathematical potential. So we want to look for potential, irrespective of background and irrespective of financial considerations. Now, Cambridge University has schemes of bursaries for people who may need some financial help. You should ask your college for that. Obviously, we need a certain basic level of mathematics because our course is very fast. So even people who have great mathematical potentials sometimes are not accepted because, unfortunately, they may not have done enough mathematics to be able to cope with our course, which is quite hard, actually, and especially quite fast. So you need to be able to work hard as well as having mathematical potential. And now we also want to achieve that, as I mentioned before, through a common selection procedure. So we ensure that applicants are individually assessed. We don't have any formula which decides how some algorithms by which we decide whether candidates should be admitted or not based on their predicted grades, what they achieve, and so on and so forth. No, we assess everybody individually. So it's quite a painstaking process, but we want to do the best by our candidates. And we want to offer them as many opportunities as possible to show their strength. So through their grades, through the interview, through some written tests at interview, all sorts of ways. And of course, through STEP, which is actually the same for every student, whatever qualifications they take. And we want them, of course, to be equally successful regardless of which college they apply to, and we use the pool to ensure that. Okay, so what do we ask for? We have actually about 5 to 6 applicants per places. As I mentioned before, we need a basic mathematical knowledge and skills, practice, okay? Because sometimes doing algebra and practicing things again and again might be a little boring, but the more you do that, the more it becomes second nature, and your mental processes are free to do proper mathematical thinking rather than just the algebra. And we need ability and talent, so mathematical potential and motivation. You need motivation. You'll be studying for 3 years, quite intense mathematics in courses that go deep into mathematics and very fast. So if you're not prepared to work hard, you're not going to be very happy here. Okay, but if you love maths and you love working hard on mathematics, then you'll get the help and the support, and you should enjoy our course. Our typical offer is on 3 A levels. So only 3 A levels normally. It doesn't matter how many A levels you take. And we are aware that many people are not able to take more than 3 A levels anyway, because their school doesn't offer it. So we ask for 2 A stars and 1 A. Usually, the 2 A stars are in maths, further maths, and the A is in another subject. Some colleges may differ slightly, it depends. But we also supplement this by grades in STEP papers 2 and 3. And the typical offer is 1 and 1 in both papers. Again, that can vary a little depending on personal, individual circumstances. Some colleges also have a flexible offer. Now, you probably will go to the STEP talk after this. And you may have looked a step. I know from experience, and the students will tell you as well, that many applicants are afraid of STEP. There are some good reasons, because STEP is different from what they do in school, but sometimes that makes them fearful of what this offer might be. And lots of students do not get help in their school to prepare for STEP. So because we're aware of this, and because the majority actually of our students, whether from independent schools, from state schools, from wherever, the vast majority of our students get, oh, there's an A star missing there, sorry, a misprint. The majority of our students gets 3 A stars in the 3 subjects that they take at A level. So our flexible offer is, if you take 3 stars and only 1 in 1 of the 2 STEP papers you take, then you're also in. It doesn't matter. So either you take A star, A, and 1 in STEP, 2 and 3, or A star, A star, A star, A star, A star, A star, and 1 in just 1 of the STEP papers, then you're also in. Okay, some students will be made that offer. Do either this or that. It doesn't matter which you achieve. If you achieve one of those 2 offers, then you're in. And I also mentioned our typical offer for IB, which is 40, 41, or 40, 42, depending on the colleges actually, with 776 at higher level. And if you're taking the new specification for IB, which most of you will be taking, then you should take the Analysis and Approaches course. Okay, so these are the technicalities of typical offers. What information we use? As I said before, we use everything in a kind of holistic way without any formula, including your personal statement. But actually, I must say, this personal statement is not one of the main elements on which we base our decisions, because we collect so much more other information that is specific to mathematics, both at interview and with the STEP papers. Okay, interviews. Many people ask about interviews. How do I prepare? I think our students will probably have some tips for you, but my own tips are just practice. Practice doing lots of maths, including sketching function, because almost invariably in an interview, a question will come up where it's either useful or you'll actually be asked to sketch a function. So practice doing that, and practice solving problems, saying something aloud, because we can't read your mind. We want to know not just that you can do a question that we've seen before. We want to know how you think about maths, especially of some problem that stumps you. So somewhere where you get stuck. So if you don't tell us what are you thinking, how you might approach that questions, then we can't make a decision about how you approach mathematical problems, how you think mathematically. Also, a good thing to do when you look at mathematical problems and questions is don't just try to solve what you're asked. Try to ask yourself, for example, if a question is about, I don't know, just odd numbers, to prove something about some odd numbers. Ask yourself, well, can maybe something slightly different be said about prime numbers? Or if a question, I don't know, it's about what happens for a positive function, what happens in other cases when a parameter varies, and all sorts. Just try to think what might happen in slightly different cases. And especially don't panic about making mistakes when you are in an interview. Absolutely everybody, and I've been interviewing for many years. I've interviewed people from who applied for many different colleges, and I've been doing that for many years. Everybody makes some mistakes at interview, and it doesn't matter at all. We make mistakes when we look at a new mathematical problem that we haven't seen before. We sometimes, often, get stuck before finding the right way of solving a problem. So you must never worry about that. And actually, in an interview, you will always get stuck somewhere, because that is how we want you to be, so that we can see how you think about mathematics. And yeah, no, we don't do that because we are cruel, okay? And we'll help you, we will guide you. We will not just let you be stuck. Otherwise, actually, the interview would be a waste of time, wouldn't it? We will give you some hints, and what we want to see at interview is how you use those hints in order to progress in a way that makes sense mathematically. So not necessarily so that you can progress to the right answer, but so that you may progress in a way that shows that you can think mathematically in the right way. All right? And the last thing is, you must never, ever take seriously all the hype that you can see in media or whatever about Cambridge interviews, okay? Because lots of people on social media and frankly, also in newspapers, print a lot of rubbish about what interviews are like. Okay, now, for those of you who have help in school, and for those of you who don't have help in school especially, use the free online STEP support program. I hope you know about it already. If not, go to it this evening after this open day. Have a look at their resources there. They're great. Many students just have used that without any support from anything else, or have used just a wonderful book by Stephen Siklos, which is called, I think it's called Advanced Problem in Mathematics, but you will see the link to it. It can be downloaded for free from the website. Stephen Siklos made sure that it could be available to everybody who wants to have a look at it. So either the STEP support program or the book by Stephen Siklos are resources that you can use for free to prepare by yourself to sit STEP and do well in STEP and meet your offer. Do it. Right. Lastly, lots of people worry about whether they might fit in or not. And again, some of the hype in various places is to blame for this. So I'll let the students tell you something about this afterwards, because it's better if you hear from them what their own experience is like. We have a cohort of mathematicians here in Cambridge, which is extremely varied in all senses. We don't care where you come from, you don't care what you like, we don't care what you wear, we don't care if your hair is blue or black or white or anything. If you're good at maths, if you enjoy doing it and you're prepared to work hard and be challenged, because our course is challenging, then you'll fit in. You'll find other mathematicians here that you can engage with, that are like you, and you'll enjoy the course, do well, and fit in. So remember, nothing else much is important apart from mathematical ability, commitment, and potential. Great, I think that's all I wanted to say. So we can go to any questions and answer you may have. I can see some questions and answers have been already posted. Oh, quite a few have been answered. I won't answer those that have been answered already then. I can see the first question at the top there. Does the third A-level subject have to be a science, or it could be music, for example? Well, good question. That depends on the colleges. There are some director of studies that do not care what their third A-level subject is, as long as it's a solid academic subject, so it's a subject that challenges you. For example, another language, or I don't know, history, or science, of course, are all fine. Some colleges do prefer a science as a third subject. My advice is ask in the college that you where you would like to apply. Okay. Next question, I think, is the SAC only math-related information, or can we put extracurricular activities on there? You can put what you want in the SAC, but usually extracurricular activities will be already in your personal statements, and extracurricular activity actually do not have any particular weight at all for our admissions to mathematics, unless they are maths related. So if your extracurricular activities is to go and teach some students in, I don't know, in a deprived school, or to students in your own school from a year below, or anything like that, then put it there. That is an extracurricular activity that gives us some information about your commitment and your potential for mathematics. If your extracurricular activity is to go climbing, or I don't know, or doing some other sport, or dancing, or anything like that, well, great, it's wonderful. We like people who do things as well, although we also, you don't have to do extra things aside from maths. There are some of our students who just do maths and just enjoy going out socially with other students, whether maths or not. It doesn't matter whether you have something else, but it won't be something crucial to put in the statements as information for us. How is STEP graded? I think I'll leave that question for the STEP talk. If you have been admitted to this, you will have a chance to go to the STEP talk just after this one. And anyway, the talks will be recorded, so that there'll be much more information from that session. How important are the predicted grades? We are well aware that because of the COVID-related emergency this year, the predicted grades might not be accurate. And actually, we're aware that in normal years as well, predicted grades sometimes are not that accurate. So people who look at applications have experience of thousands of applications, and is sometimes, whether the predicted grades are accurate or not, sometimes depends on the schools. They are important, but we don't just automatically reject people who have predicted grades that are lower than what we ask in a typical offer. We will look at other contextual information to decide whether we should ignore that, and because look, we interview well over 80% of the people who apply to us. And many of those, some of those anyway, don't have predicted grades that actually correspond to what we ask for a typical offer. So we want to give a chance to lots of people who may be, we think, good mathematicians and who would benefit from coming to Cambridge. So don't worry too much, but if your maths teacher insists on not predicting a star for your mathematics and further mathematics, because they may have, and sometimes they do have some idea that it's not so important, tell them that if you think you will get A stars, they should say that. And if you disagree, you can put it in your personal statement. Okay, any information concerning how Brexit might affect course fees for EU students? Questions about the fees and what might happen are best asked to colleges, but at the moment, students who get an offer whilst European students pay the same as home students are likely to keep paying the same. But of course, once we're left then with a new cohort things may well change. More questions. Oops. Are these years offer holder able to defer their place if they're not happy about the exam results? Unless there is a very special reason that some students achieve results that they're not happy with, or they're really below what they are able to achieve. For example, they were ill during the exams, or something happened that affected their performance in the exam, then normally we wouldn't accept deferrals. It's usually not in the best interest of the students. Will this increase? Yeah, there can be good reasons to defer places. Usually, unless there are some special reasons that have affected your performance during the exam, then not being happy with exam results is not a good reason to defer a place. For A levels, the official position is that however many A levels you take, our offer is based on 3 A levels only. So, can an offer be made on it? Again, you should ask your college, but normally an offer is made on 3 A levels only. I think I've answered about characteristic or experience that we look for in candidates. Analogous requirements for EB? Do you mean EB instead of IB? I'll check that, and maybe we'll collect all these answers and set up a frequently asked questions. So I'll double check that, and we'll be able to answer later, and we'll post it on our website. Distant learning further maths damage a person's chances of being accepted? No, not at all. And actually will show your commitment. Quite a number of students who are not able to take further maths in their school because they don't offer it, then take it independently in various reasons. You should check what the advanced maths support program offers. Have a look. We might post, we'll put an answer on the frequently asked questions about that, because there are ways of supporting students who can't take further maths in their school. Typical offer for the Irish Leaving Certificate, I don't know at the top of my head. I'll have a look, but we'll put it in our frequently answered questions. Minimum entry requirements specific to the country. Yes. Is there also specific mark requirements for mathematics or any other subjects? Usually, yes. In any qualifications that has an overall grade plus grades in its subjects, like for example the IB as well, we normally ask for a certain level in the mathematics component of that. Exactly what that is in different kind of qualifications, then it depends on the college, but usually there is. So you should ask the college, and I do hope you'll do very well in the mathematical part of your maturita. Will all interviews be done in person, or is it, good question. Normally interviews are done in person, but occasionally, and actually I have carried out interviews by Zoom as well. And because we're getting so much more practice these days, also teaching and doing supervisions through Zoom, because obviously in the lockdown there is no other way we can continue teaching, then it may be possible, even more than in the past, to have interviews online. Although if we can, the preference is to have interviews done in person. How important is performance in Maths Olympiad? It's great. It's important. It's, if you've done the Olympiads and performed well, that will give us a good piece of information about your ability in mathematics. But lots of the students who apply and are admitted here have never achieved or sat Olympiads or done well in them, and a good percentage of them are still very good mathematicians. So great if you've done it. Great if you haven't. Eligibility for flexible offer. Flexible offer is usually just for home students for schools that do not offer much support for STEP. Or yeah, it's usually for that type of candidates, or candidates who, for whatever reason, do not get much support to prepare for STEP. Typical offer for the EB, the European Baccalaureate. I'll put it in the frequently asked questions, yes, before I say something that is not quite correct, if I misremember. The flexible offer is not usually for students that come from outside the UK. It's much more difficult for us to really be assessing fairly whether those candidates are more or less disadvantaged. So there isn't a fair way that we could apply that to students from outside the UK. Can specific colleges? Well, I hope colleges don't, in general. There may be specific reasons for individual candidates, but the usual typical offers are based on 3 A-levels, not 4. And again, extracurricular activities, I think we treated earlier. There isn't any particular weighting for anything actually, but especially for extracurricular activities. How do I know I will enjoy if I study maths further? Well, actually, there is an answer to that. I think that if you start looking at STEP questions and try to get into how to understand, how to answer STEP questions, then that will give you a glimpse of what mathematics is like at university. And if you then enjoy STEP questions, I'm not saying you will enjoy it from the start. From the start, it'll be tough. It'll be very tough. You'll probably look at the STEP question and say, oh, how do I even start there? And you might try something and it won't work. You try something else, think for an hour, and again, it might not work. You go back the next day and you might be able to do something. Then you'll look at perhaps at hints or other things and you may get somewhere. But if you persist, if you use the STEP support program and the book by Sickles, then you'll be able to answer them. And if you go on like this, and you will enjoy the process of actually becoming a better mathematician, being able to answer and understand these type of questions, then if you do that, that is a very good indication that you will enjoy maths at university. Okay, 3.3/4, is that a GPA? Maybe we'll answer the question. There isn't enough information there for me to answer specifically. Whether a student is mature or not, and I actually interview for more mature colleges, of course, really we always ask for STEP as well. And we want to see evidence of recent timed exams. So the offer is not very different, although we are aware of the constraints and the different ways that mature students can prepare and study. So whilst the mathematical level has to be the same for everybody, the way we accept that a mature student can demonstrate their level of ability in mathematics can be different, but I can't answer that completely. Mathematics and computer science is no longer on offer. The reason, you should ask computer science department for that, I think. Is STEP only required for the maths course? No, actually, other courses also either, it depends on the colleges. There are some other courses who either ask or encourage people to take STEP. And of course, there are other universities too, like Warwick or Imperial, various universities consider STEP good preparation. And if you've done it, it'd be good. Fee status, we're trying to find out. I am not sure, actually, if anybody knows for certain at the moment for the future. Okay, cut-off point for exam. I'm not sure what the question is, but again, we don't operate on a strict cut-off point for anything. Work experience, yes, we do look at work experience. It's a useful information, especially if the work experience is in something that is related to mathematics. EPQ, EPQ is a nice thing to do if you like it, but it's not particularly useful or particularly recommended to us. If you like doing an EPQ, and there's certainly other universities who do not interview students, who do not ask for steps, or have fewer information at their disposal to judge the potential of a candidate, they will look at EPQs, and it may be beneficial, particularly for other universities. For us, it doesn't really make any difference at all. What is the selection through interview based on? That is a slightly tough question to answer. I think I've given some answer already when I spoke about interviews before. We want to see how you think about a mathematical problem that you haven't seen before, a mathematical problem where you get stuck. And we want to see that you can take some hints from somebody who may be teaching you and use them in a way that is sensible mathematically. So you can think mathematically, logically, and use hints that are given to you by a teacher. If you do that, whether you get to the right answer or not, then that is how we assess your potential in an interview. Does it make a difference if you're studying 3 A-levels, even if your school allows you to take 4? Not in general, although if everybody in your schools normally does 4 A-levels, we might wonder why you're doing only 3 instead of 4, and it would be a good idea to put some explanation of why that is the case for you. You're interested in studying chemical engineering, and no, yes, if you're asked for step 1 for chemical engineering, you will not have to sit paper 2 and 3 for chemical engineering, although I shouldn't be answering that for certain. Okay, you should ask engineering. Science A-levels have a practical component. If science is about, will you be required to achieve a pass? I suppose that if you apply for maths with physics, people may be interested in seeing that you have achieved a pass in the practical component. If you are applying for mathematics, well, in the practical component for physics, they may not be so interested in other sciences, practical. For mathematics, I think everybody achieved the pass anyway, but it will be less important. And if there is some reason why you don't, check with your college. Okay, my teachers here think that you only accept people from non-state school if they do 4 A-levels. This again goes back to the questions I answered before. If in your school practically everybody takes 4 A-levels, then we might wonder why you are not, because obviously that is a school that supports students through 4 A-levels. You see, something that we need to find out is if a student actually has the stamina, can work hard, so can actually cope with quite a bit of workload, because that is what you'll encountered in our mathematical course in Cambridge. So if you are able to do 4 A-levels, that is a very good indication that you're able to cope with a high workload. If you have the opportunity to do that, and most students in your school do take that, then we'll wonder why you haven't, and whether maybe it's because you can't cope with a high workload. It doesn't mean you're a bad mathematician. You may still be a brilliant mathematician, but then you probably benefit more from going to a university where the pace is a bit more leisurely than in Cambridge. So you don't need to cope with a high workload, and you can do very well in maths there, even if you want to sort of spend all your weekends socializing and you're not prepared to study every day for a few hours, just mathematics, then yeah, that's why we wonder why a student who can do 4 A-levels does only 3, because we need evidence of being able to cope with a high workload. Now, before, let me see what the time is. Time. Okay, we are nearly finished. I think I should let our students, why haven't they come up? Show yourself there. Can you show your video? We have 4 students there.
Hello.
Okay, I think I'll leave it to them now to answer questions and to say something about their own experience.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for submitting questions on the question answer tab at the bottom. We have had a lot of questions, so please keep sending them in. If we can't answer your question, then we apologise, but please feel free to email in your questions to the admissions team of the department or at your individual colleges. We'll try and get through them as quickly as we can. So I'll start with one which we've had a lot in the comment section, and we also had emailed in. The question is, what kind of things are you looking for in a personal statement? Now, a lot of you will be submitting your applications through UCAS, where you'll be sending in the same personal statement for all your applications to UK universities. So it's important to consider how your personal statement affects not just your Cambridge application, but other applications. But for the maths course at Cambridge, your personal statement is not hugely important. So if you do well in your STEP and your A-levels, then it doesn't matter a huge amount what you put in there. So I would suggest what you want to do is you want to show that show your own enthusiasm for maths in your personal statement. If you read extracurricular books about maths, definitely put them in there. Explain why you're interested in them. Explain a topic in math that you're interested in. But at the same time, if you don't read too much extracurricular, it's not a problem. So there's nothing really which you need to put on there for your Cambridge application. Like I said, make sure you consider other applications when you're submitting them. I hope that's answered that question. So I'll pass it on to Jemma to answer the next one.
Yeah, there's been quite a few questions being like, how do I know what college to apply to? Am I gonna hurt my chances? And what happens if blah, blah, blah. So I just wanted to talk really quickly what the pooling system means. So we want to make it so that no matter what college you apply to, you can still get in if, for example, one college received like loads of application. That's not going to hurt your chances. So we have something called the pool to kind of alleviate that, which means if loads of people apply to one college, then they can be kind of passed on, pooled to other colleges. So no, that's not going to affect you negatively. And secondly, just lots of questions about how to choose a college. My general advice is it's not going to affect your academic or social life negatively, depending on what college you go to. Most of it's just luck, depending on what your cohort's like. So really just do your best. You can Google image search if you want, but it's not going to negatively affect you. Most of it is luck. Don't try to play a numbers game. Don't be like, oh, this college let in 0.3% more people, because like I said, we have the pooling system. So that'll even that out for the years. So I'll pass it on to the next person.
Okay, so I wanted to talk a bit about the admissions tests. A lot of people asked if there's like a pre-interview admissions test and how it's different from MAT, and like what about step 1, like what's the deal with that? So basically, typically a pre-interview admissions test isn't a thing unless you apply to a college that asks for one. So I believe Trinity, for example, they will have you sit a test before your interview, but this will be right before, not something that has to be organized beforehand like the MAT. So STEP is quite different from the MAT in that it is done at the end when you're doing your A-levels, so we'll have questions based on the content covered in the entire A-level maths course. Whereas the MAT, for example, first of all, it's not something that we consider typically in a Cambridge application, and Also, it will be done at the beginning of year 13 typically, and will just be on like year 12 A-level content or AS maths content. Yeah, I'll pass on to Kai then.
Yeah, so I've seen quite a few questions in the chat about work experience in terms of mathematics related and how it affects this application. So I think, as Mohammed said in your personal statement, you would probably mention a lot of different things you've done related to mathematics to show your interest. In terms of work experience, I think there's not a huge amount that's specifically maths related, at least at this level. I personally didn't have any relevant work experience, but I think maybe in general, touching what Orsola said as well, if you can sort of have some work experience in general that ties in, that goes along with your studies and academic work, it shows that you're not able to manage a significant workload and how that might translate into working at Cambridge as well. But I wouldn't focus too much on that. I think there's other things that are more important, more specifically just mathematical interest and potential as well. I think, have we got time for anything else, Orsola?
Yes, a couple of minutes more.
Awesome.
We'll answer everything and post things online. There were things about GCSEs. GCSEs are not terribly important. We'll put answers to the COVID-related questions and some questions about gap years. Some colleges actually encourage gap years, and many students can defer after they've given an offer, but it depends on the college, so you ask. Other students wanted to chip in?
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of questions about should you do an EPQ, should you do work experience, some which have said, how do you demonstrate mathematical curiosity, mathematical interest, questions like that. So this ties into what I said before about your personal statement. If you find that a certain type of work experience will benefit you personally, your mathematical development, then yes, it's definitely worth doing it. If you can't think of anything like that, then it's not a big problem. So anything which you find benefits you in terms of your mathematical ability, in terms of your development, feel free to put on your personal statement. As for mathematical curiosity, interviewers want to see that you are willing to tackle a problem, that you are willing to try and solve it, to throw ideas around. So there's nothing specific you can do except for follow your own curiosity. If you see a book which you're interested in, then feel free to get it, to read it, and that is really how to demonstrate it, just by listening to your own curiosity. So there's nothing specific, there's no guidelines of things which you can do as to extracurriculars, just follow your own development. I hope that's answered that one. So Jemma, do you have another question?
Yeah, there were lots of questions that were just like, how do I know if I have mathematical potential? How do I know if I'm good enough for university maths, et cetera, et cetera. And I just want to reassure everyone that you should aim for what you enjoy, in the sense that, do you enjoy mathematics? Do you find it fun? Are you kind of doing well in your classes? Those are the kind of questions to be asking yourself. I wouldn't worry so much about like, what is mathematical potential? Do I have it? Do I not have it? It's not black and white like that. It's not like you wake up one day and either you're there or not. And just a reminder, you do have, I think, 5 different universities on your UCAS. So it's okay to apply to 5 different ones in a range of things. But yeah, so I wouldn't stress about whether or not you have this potential. It's not like a magic word. Just like, do you enjoy doing maths? Are you doing well in your courses in school? That's kind of, at the end of the day, what's important. Julius, anything else?
Yeah, so I want to address a couple of questions about like joint honors degrees or doing like maths with statistics, maths with economics. In Cambridge, we don't offer a joint maths degree. It's only like, it's just maths. As we mentioned before, there is the maths with physics option, but that's only like a first year thing. And it's where you take physics, the natural science physics, instead of like 2 of the 8 courses. However, we do offer like a wide range of maths courses inside the maths diploma. And so if you're interested in like economics, then there in 3rd year, there's a financial models option you can take, and there's a lot of statistics models. you can take if you're interested in maths with statistics. It's really up to like you, how you design your own maths course. If you love pure maths, then you can take analysis and algebra. If you like applied maths, then you can stick with your physics options as you go through your degree. Another thing to mention with Cambridge that's a bit unique to Cambridge is that if you're interested in things outside of maths, you do have the option to attend other subject lectures. It's not going to be part of your degree or anything. It's not going to be assessed. But if you're interested in philosophy, I think someone mentioned here philosophy, maths with philosophy. There's no degree for that, but you can attend the lectures for philosophy you're interested in. I remember in first year, I attended a couple of geography lectures just because that was something that I was quite into. And it's really, you know, helps broaden your horizons and everything. So I think I just say like, there's no need to worry about the fact that there is no joint honors degree because there's just such a huge variety that it doesn't really matter at the end. Yeah. Kai, anything else?
I mean, just to touch on that, we were saying with joint honours and sort of sitting in other lectures, there is time to do things other than maths. So you can do extracurriculars and just basically enjoy your time at university. Like you don't have to just do maths. Obviously, if you just want to do maths, that's fine as well. But you can do other things and just enjoy your time here as well. Okay,
I think we'll have to close this, but be reassured that we'll answer all your questions. We'll collect them and post something online. I hope this was useful, and thanks very much to those of you who filled in the poll. So we'll close this session now. A few minutes break, and then you'll be able to join the session about STEP, which should be useful. Okay, thanks a lot for joining this. Bye-bye.